but he wasn't good enough. We put him on the stage.
This is actually kind of cool. I used to see this on TV. I wonder if I'd ever do that, you know? It's like NIL, name, image, likeness. I can start doing that now.
Hey, Rob. Can you just weigh in on your thoughts about Jermayne's loss, and also what you have there at that position in Shannon and Omar?
You know, I want it to be clear. You know, that was probably, injuries are the hardest part of this business, period. But you get so close to your guys, and I have such a profound amount of respect for my guys. But in particular, I have such a love and respect for Jermayne. So when you lose Jermayne, you lose more than a player, because I think it's our obligation as a team to do our best to replace the production, and we're going to do everything in our power to do that. But you can't replace the person, and he has a presence. And after what he's been through this year, it was a personal goal of mine to help him in every way that I could to have the best season of his life. And he was on track to do that. It's the best I've seen him. He was outstanding. And then, I've been doing this a long time, and I've never seen a defensive lineman in that position have that happen to him. I was told by the doctor that it's more common, but I watched every snap, every sack, hit, and hurry in the NFL for 6 years, and I never saw it happen. And I was around a lot of football, so it's a freak thing, and it's an unfortunate thing. But now I think for Jermayne, he needs to know that he still has a future, and I'm going to do everything in my power. And I know AP, Marvin, Herm, and his teammates are going to do everything in our power to help him realize that. And so we still love him, and it's a gut punch, and it's about as heartbreaking as it gets. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It just stinks for us as a team, but our obligation is to make up for that production. And I'm proud of Shannon and Omar. The thing that's great about it is I'm sleeping good at night. I still have a high standard for this group. We still have a standard for ourselves. We still expect to be better than we were last year. And Shannon and Omar are both, to a man, better than they were last year. And they're tough sons of guns, and I expect them to play at a high level. And I'm really proud of the progress they've made in this camp.
Do you have a follow-up?
Well, yeah, just maybe if you can expand on the balance between Shannon and Omar, the different types of guys, and how you kind of maximize the players that you have in that group there.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I think that you get with Shannon is he's got the ability, he's tough as nails, and he's got the ability to anchor. He can play the three technique position as well as anybody inside versus power scoops and double teams. So when somebody wants to get heavy and play big boy football, he can do it, and he has enough versatility to move outside and play there. And versus big personnel, he can be a really good base end. But Shannon has gotten better and improved in his pass rush, but I think that's probably where he needs to improve the most. Even though I've seen a lot of growth in him in the last 2 weeks, especially, I've seen a lot of growth in him there. Omar, I think he was born and he walked. He was born and he was already rushing the passer. As soon as they put him down. He's got a quickness that I can't teach. The thing is that you have to, it's like the Tasmanian devil, he's going to just bounce around and destroy everything. Well, we have to have balance there, and so making him a better run player, making him a more disciplined pass rusher, so that we corral that talent and make it more directed to where we want it to go, the quarterback. Because that Tasmanian devil's going to knock over a lot of trees, but some stuff, the quarterback's still going to be standing. With that ability, he can get to the quarterback as well as anybody. But he's had a lot of personal growth in the last year. He's a better person, a lot more emotional maturity in him, and that's what I'm especially proud of in him. I think we all knew his talent, but it was going to be wasted if he didn't mature as a person, and he's done that, and he's still doing that, so I'm excited for his future here.
Hi, Robert. Earlier in fall camp, you said that you're really pleased with the overall depth that you have at the defensive line. So aside from the three technique position, how is that depth really materialized every day in fall camp? How do you feeling about that depth collectively in terms of the talent level a week and a half before the season opener?
Yeah, I got to watch what I say, huh? Because, as soon as you say that, you start hitting some injuries. And look, I told the guys at the beginning of the year, take an inventory of how you feel. This is the best you're going to feel for the rest of the year. You're a defensive lineman. and we got to play through pain and play through it. Injuries are different from pain. And so we have to, as the defensive line, continue to get tougher and get better in that regard. However, it's taken a hit. We had a couple of injuries and things like that. However, I feel way better about the depth than I did at this time last year. Way better. And so I have a lot more confidence. And I mean, if we sat here a year ago and said, "Hey, Coach Rod, do you trust Stanley Lambert to go out there and play?" I mean, come on now. I couldn't have said that last year. The kids worked so hard. I trust that kid to go play for us. Joe Moore, different guy now. All those guys have had so much growth. The guys that we brought in have provided a spark. Those guys are going to be really good players, whether they're ready now or not. It remains to be seen. But the depth, it's not even close. Guys that can go out there and play today, I think we have a lot more candidates to do that. Now, obviously, losing Jermayne, you lose a lot of production there. But I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of guys that work really hard that we're going to like when we're out there on the field.
Hey, Coach Zach Keenan, Devil's Digest. I think it's safe to assume you've probably coached hundreds, if not thousands, of defensive linemen in your career. It seems like the loss of Jermayne Lole, or at least the temporary loss, has you especially kind of struck. Do you feel like you're very close with him, especially considering what he's been through?
Well, first of all, 1,000. I mean, I'm not that old, big dog, but I've coached a lot of them. And listen, if you're going to be a good football coach, you got to develop a personal relationship with them. You got to get to know what makes them tick. We're not all built the same. And so I try my best to develop personal relationships with everybody that I work with, but especially that I coach. However, Jermayne's a special guy to me, and he's a tremendously talented person. There's a lot more depth to him than I think people can realize because he's so quiet. The biggest thing with Jermayne is obviously what he went through. And what he went through, it brings you closer to your guys because you want to be there for them. And I'm just blessed that I work for Herman Edwards, Marvin, AP, guys who understand that and allowed me to be a good person to him and get closer with him. Because I think when you're there for somebody in their hardest times, they grow closer to you, they learn to trust you. And that's what we were for Jermayne, and he's a person who's very loyal. So I'm very close with Jermayne in the sense that he knows how much I care about him on a personal level and how much, some people, because he's such a great football player, you could push him to make a decision that could potentially harm himself because we need his production. We weren't going to do that because we're good people and we care about him on a personal level. And that's the way we treat all our players. That's the way I've been raised to be as a coach. And I would rather be fired before I put him in harm's way. And we're close, but I hope at the end of the journey with all my guys that they'd all say that.
Working with Travez Moore since the spring until now, it seems like he's already made some pretty good strides in different ways. What have you seen from him, and what do you think he's capable of this year?
I don't want to, like I said, Travez has grown leaps and bounds since the spring as a football player. I think, some of the things that we ask of our defensive linemen and that we ask in our technique is so unnatural. It's so unnatural to the human eye, and everything that they've been taught, we kind of ask them to reverse their thinking. And Vez is such a natural athlete. I think he's been allowed to freelance and be loose in his technique. And you guys have been around me. That's not the way it goes with the way we do things here. And so it was a hard transition for him. You saw glimpses of it at the end of the spring. The growth from then till now has been exponential. Just understanding, hey, the angles, the way it goes, he still reverts back to his old habits at times. Another thing is, again, asking him to be emotionally mature and make better decisions, be more of a professional in the way he treats this game. And I always tell the guys that this game is like my first love. It's almost like, letting your daughter marry somebody. Listen, brother, if you don't love her, you better act like you love her. You better treat her right. And sometimes these guys aren't raised to treat the game right, and that's what I ask of them. And Vez has started to do that. I think in the last, we've had some bumps in the road, but I'll tell you this, he's got great potential. His ability is about as high as you can ask. He's got great athleticism. Not the biggest guy, but his athleticism gives him the opportunity. He could beat anybody he lines up with if he's prepared and he's got the right mindset. And I think he's getting there. So I'm really proud of his progression.
We've seen, I think last week, Jordan Banks started to work with his hand down a little bit with you. Initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm excited because I think JB has a lot of potential as a pass rusher, more than that, you know, when he comes over with us, I see a surge of energy in JB, and he's fully committed. I think he sees the big picture too. You know, a lot of guys get discouraged because that means, oh, I'm not going to play as quickly, which may be true, but at the same time, the investment is going to be worth it at the end of this thing when we see him come out the other side as a really good football player. And I think his best asset is his ability to pass rush. And I think getting with us and getting to hone that in and do it every single day, I think you're going to see a great product when we get to the other side of the mountain. So right now, I love his mindset. I think he's got a ton of potential in the future.
Robert, just want to give, I always like to get the perspective of the opposing coach, so to speak, at practice. What are your thoughts about this offensive line? Just like the defensive line, returning a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Have you seen a different offensive line even compared to spring practice, let alone last year?
Absolutely. You know, we even got the scout team guys that come over this week and start working scouts, and it's the best scout look apparently they've had here forever. It was outstanding. I think Coach Kavanaugh, you know, those guys do an unbelievable job. I have a lot of respect for Coach Cav. I think a lot is to be said when you talk to an offensive line coach. I've always had, as an assistant D-line coach, great relationships with the offensive line coach. It helps me to understand how to draw cards, how to teach my guys. Everything we teach has a lot to do with what's in their mindset and what they're taught. So there's some coaches that don't like to talk ball. And Cav, the best ones do. Cav is a great teacher. He's a great mind. You know, he's a little bit like me in the sense where we have a high standard, and you may make us look like grouches, but really we love our guys. He loves his players. He's a servant leader. That offensive line, not only are they better, they're playing better together. I think that's a huge component of it is, you know, Kellen Deesh is going to hopefully be an improved player, right, or still be a good player. It doesn't do him any good if the guy next to him's not on the same page with him. And those guys are sorting games, they're sorting movement. They're doing so much better together. So I'm extremely pleased. They're improved in different run styles they maybe weren't good at last year. But I got a lot of respect for those guys. I think those guys they're all getting better too, man.